of weather. Look at these temperatures. I mean, yesterday we were talking on the east side in the 80s and 90s. It's 68 in Pendleton, 62 in Baker City, 69 currently in Portland. Tomorrow morning here in Portland, look for temperatures in the upper 40s to right around 50. Kind of cold.
K2 Weather every hour is brought to you by Teplic Laser Vision, your vision for the future.
News tonight, the Mexican president challenges Mr. Bush. Make a deal about illegal immigrants, you need them. The Protestant bomb thrower and the Catholic children. We'll take a closer look tonight at what it means to be a teacher and this fall to get a teacher. The Forest Service's policy of letting the forest burn. Was that a mistake in Montana? And the First Lady on her first state dinner.
I'm wearing a really very festive red dress. I've been working on it a long time. I made it myself. No, I'm only
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening, everyone. The leaders of other countries come and go from Washington on a fairly regular basis in the course of a year. The president of Mexico gets more attention than most. When the Mexican President Vicente Fox went to the White House today, the agenda was crowded with human and economic issues that have an impact on millions of people here and there. And so that's where we begin tonight, here and there, and at the White House. Here's our White House correspondent, Terry Moran. Terry?
Well, Peter, the president wants this first state visit of his administration to send a strong signal about the importance of Mexico and the Western Hemisphere in his foreign policy. From the fanfare to the review of the troops to the Army's Fife and Drum Corps, Mr. Bush pulled out all the stops for the man who has quickly become his closest partner among world leaders.
Friends deal in good faith and disagree with respect. Friends stick together in good times and in bad.
But then the Mexican president stunned his hosts and raised the stakes for this visit by publicly laying down a deadline for an agreement on the most controversial issue the two nations face, immigration.
We must and we can reach an agreement on migration before the end of this very year, which will allow us, before the end of our respective terms, to make sure that there are no Mexicans who have not entered this country legally in the United States.
That would mean legalizing millions of undocumented Mexicans in the U.S. Administration officials who have been working for months with their Mexican counterparts on the issue quickly backed away from Fox's deadline.
I cannot forecast an exact time when, whether before or after that time, when we would have the kind of finality.
Standing in the way of an immigration reform deal are conservatives on Capitol Hill, where President Fox heads tomorrow to address a joint session of Congress. Aides from both countries say that the friendship between the two presidents is genuine and deep. But so far, on immigration, on trade, on Mexican trucks accessing U.S. highways, they've made little substantive headway. And, Peter, that shows how hard it is to translate warm, personal feelings into real political accomplishments.
Many thanks, Terry. Terry at the White House tonight. Here's an interesting aspect of this story. About 50,000 Mexicans are legally brought into the U.S. every year by U.S. companies as part of a guest worker program. And so ABC's Deborah Amos has been reporting this story for us from Richmond, Virginia, and the Mexican town of San Luis Potosi.
This form is E94.
These people are getting ready to leave Mexico for meatpacking jobs in Texas. Before they go, they must sign a document promising to come back to Mexico when their contract is up.
That agreement have to be signed by their wives or their mothers or their children, and the family say okay.
About 3,000 miles away in Richmond, Virginia, a property management company depends on these so-called guest workers to do the hard work. Under U.S. law, these Mexicans can only work here for about 10 months.
I have to say that I owe the growth of our business to this labor pool.
Without it?
We would have to cut back, and we certainly wouldn't be able to plan for growth.
Across the country, more and more American businesses are turning to this legal guest worker visa program. Mexicans are lining up to take these jobs when no American can be found to fill them. In Mexico, state governments screen applicants supplying medical and background checks to U.S. companies, which send recruiters. Mayron Azimer represents 75 Texas businesses, from meat packers to gourmet food companies.
It's very important that you understand the limitations and conditions of the visa.
The Bush administration wants to expand this program to create a larger pool of low-wage workers. Mexico believes this would help curb illegal and dangerous border crossings so many make for U.S. jobs.
We think we should find ways to regularize it, to humanize it, to make it more orderly and legal. And a temporary worker program is one very intelligent, imaginative way of doing it.
A way of doing it that will mean a sweeping change in Mexican immigration. Deborah Amos, ABC News, on the U.S.-Mexico border.
There's going to be more about this later this evening on Nightline. The subject of immigration almost never ceases to be controversial. In the case of Mexico, whether it's the guest worker program Deborah Amos just reports on, or the wholesale reform which President Fox is seeking, we would actually like to hear your thoughts about the subject, and you can contact us at abcnews.com and we will read them. In Montana today, the Forest Service and many residents who've been affected by that huge forest fire are having a huge difference of opinion about Forest Service policy. The fire in and around Glacier National Park is still very much out of control. And the issue is whether the Forest Service could have done something at the very beginning. ABC's Bill Redeker reports tonight from Columbia Falls.
This massive fire, which was ignited by lightning on federal lands 3 weeks ago, is now burning through private property, and that has infuriated rancher John Michelotti.
It's hard to see 100-year-old trees go up in 100 seconds.
Michelotti and his neighbors believe the Forest Service could have extinguished the fire moments after it began, but didn't because of its new policy to allow some fires to consume built-up brush.
I kind of disagree with them letting it burn.
The Forest Service admits it may have reacted too late.
It's probably true. If you'd got on that fire right quickly, we could have suppressed it.
But he says at the time they had to deal with a lot of fires.
When you have 12,000 lightning strikes in a 12-hour period, and many of them in these conditions may start fires, you've got to prioritize the areas that you're going to strike first.
As the government implements its policy to allow fires to burn rather than fight them at all costs, the Forest Service says homeowners who choose to live in the woods can expect more threatening fires. For the residents of more than 3 dozen homes, including those who manage this general store, resentment and fear.
It's daunting, I can tell you.
There was some relief today for the more than 1,000 firefighters trying to save these homes. Rain, but not enough to extinguish a fire still out of control. Bill Redeker, ABC News, Columbia Falls, Montana.
In the national briefing tonight, we begin on Capitol Hill. The Health and Human Services Secretary told a Senate committee today that the University of Wisconsin has agreed to give scientists full access to its 5 lines of stem cells. Tommy Thompson also admitted less than half the stem cell lines from human embryos, which President Bush approved for federal funding, are actually ready for researchers. Oklahoma City will not, or rather Oklahoma County, will not drop murder charges against Terry Nichols, who's already been convicted in federal court for plotting the Oklahoma City bombing. Nichols had offered to drop his appeals and accept a life sentence if the state, which wants the death penalty, would not prosecute him. So much for the hurricane forecast this year. This is the longest Atlantic hurricane season in 17 years, which has yet to yield a hurricane. That's not what they forecast. And Texas A&M University has had the first cloned animals fair and claims it's the first institution to clone 3 different species: pigs, goats, and cattle. The school is still trying to clone a dog. In Norfolk, Virginia today, the Navy was trying to close a painful chapter. It was giving medals to crew members from the USS Cole, the American destroyer so badly damaged when it was bombed last October in Yemen and when 17 American soldiers died. Many members of the crew clearly demonstrated heroism as far as the Navy is concerned, although the Navy has not always been so sure. ABC's John McCarthy is at the Pentagon.
There was no mention at today's ceremony in Norfolk of the first phase of the Navy's investigation. It found the captain and crew should have done more to protect the ship. The skipper at the time, Kirk Lippold, who did not attend the ceremony today, is being given the Legion of Merit, the Navy's highest leadership award, for his role in saving the Cole. Navy brass ultimately concluded no one should be blamed. The attack could not have been prevented. The ship itself, still in a Mississippi dry dock, is being transformed. The terrible gash in its side, 40 feet across, is now repaired. Inside the ship, the twisted steel of the mess deck, where most of the 17 sailors died, is now a bright open space, tables soon to be added. One deck below is the main engine room, where the bomb did its worst damage. Commander Kevin Sweeney is the Cole's new skipper.
A significant amount of work has happened here since the ship has been in the yard. The two main engines have been replaced.
While the ship may be almost ready to float again, the captain must also contend with a new crew.
I think anybody from here on out assigned to Cole knows Cole's history.
For those still with the ship, the Cole represents a huge and unsettling chapter in their lives. Eric Givens says it will help to have others on board who went through it with him.
And if any little thing, comes up, there'll be somebody there who will understand, what each one of us went through.
As for those responsible, the government of Yemen is still refusing to let the FBI independently question all those who may have had knowledge of the attack. It seems likely that only a few locals who supported the suicide bombers will end up going to trial. The Cole is scheduled to rejoin the fleet next spring, but no amount of welding and sandblasting will ever fully erase the scars. John McWethy, ABC News, the Pentagon.
In Yemen today, the president said that as far as his country was concerned, the investigation was over and it was on its way to trial. And if you were listening closely, yes, I said soldiers, I meant sailors. In the medical file tonight, the consumer advocacy group Public Citizen has asked the government to ban food supplements containing the herbal stimulant ephedra. It has been linked to heart attacks, strokes, and seizures in otherwise healthy people. The New England Journal of Medicine reports that an apparently harmless form of hepatitis called hepatitis G may actually prolong life for people with HIV. It apparently slows the progression of the disease. The journal also reports that patients who have chemotherapy and radiation after surgery for stomach cancer survive longer than those who only have the surgery. When we come back, the shortage of teachers and pushing the limits to find them. We'll take a closer look. And overseas today, a terrifying walk to school for the Catholic girls. First the jeers, and then the stones, and then the bomb. And we'll end the broadcast tonight with the First Lady and a touch of the chef in first person.
Hey, everybody.
World News Tonight with Peter Jennings and a closer look. Brought to you by Aflac. Without it, no insurance is complete.
Relax, we got supplemental insurance.
What are you talking about?
If we get injured and miss work, we're covered for things like lost pay and other expenses with this.
With what?
Plus, they pay you cash. Great, huh?
Who does? Aflac.
Aflac. Without it, no insurance is complete.
He's at the 10, the 5. Fumble!
Get your hands on new Game Day Cheez-It crackers. Football shapes for football fans.
Introducing a new premium sedan from Hyundai with soft leather, traction control, V6 power, and the freedom of America's best warranty plan. All for less than $24,000. The new Hyundai XG300. Fly first class for the price of coach.
Get 0.9% APR financing on the XG300 now.
The stock market. A year ago, it was how high is high. Now everyone's asking where's the bottom. Janus has gotten through tough times the same way we've gotten ahead, picking stocks one at a time, looking for opportunities for over 30 years. Janus is looking right now to be in the right place when a downturn turns into a better day. Get there. Janus Mutual Funds.
How was your dinner, eh? Oh, heartburn. I've got just what you need.
Alka-Seltzer Heartburn Relief. Faster than Pepcid AC or even the leading prescription. Alka-Seltzer Heartburn Relief.
We're going to take a closer look tonight at the shortage of teachers in the United States. There have been shortages off and on ever since school attendance became compulsory in the second half of the 19th century. Based on the evidence, we can expect a shortage, even a severe one, for maybe the next 10 years. It is a terrible scramble for schools every year to get ready for the fall. Almost 3 million teachers will quit or retire in the next 6 years, which means, of course, it's an emergency for someone all the time. Here's ABC's Michelle Norris.
School systems are filling teaching vacancies any way they can.
Welcome to the United States.
These much-needed math and science instructors were hired from India to fill slots in Cleveland. In fact, school systems around the country have begun importing teachers from every corner of the globe. And across the country, districts such as Atlanta are lowering standards and bending the rules, holding emergency boot camps for new recruits who lack experience or a teaching degree. Short-term fixes that won't solve the larger problem.
Well, they've found the warm bodies, but there is no guarantee that these teachers are going to stay. We can predict, in fact, that many of them won't stay.
Education experts say that when it comes to finding and keeping good teachers, school systems are unwilling to change outmoded hiring and promotion practices.
Eftimi Simeon was once a college professor in Romania and now teaches calculus at New York's prestigious Stuyvesant High School, where he's so popular that he's called the school MVP.
Teaching is my main profession, my unique profession.
But his job is under constant threat because under union rules, teachers with less experience but more seniority can bump him out of his job.
You've got this dumb system that says to the manager of an organization, namely the principal of a school, sorry, you're responsible for the results, but you actually have no authority over who works here.
And there's another issue for teachers in high-demand fields like math and science. Because of a uniform salary schedule, those teachers are paid the same as instructors in other fields with similar experience, even though they could easily earn much more on the open market. So with the promise of higher pay elsewhere, teachers like Simeon are tempted to leave.
If the contract doesn't go through, I think I have to find my way.
If they hope to attract and keep the best and brightest teachers, public schools must first deal with another problem: public school hiring and promotion standards that would never make sense in the private sector. Michelle Norris, ABC News, Washington.
Here's one other thing for this evening. Every year, 250,000 people graduate from various teaching programs in the country. 40% of them never go on to teach. When we come back this evening, the hatred that is engulfing the children. And at the end of the broadcast, the First Lady and the chef and the state dinner. He's done it many times. It's her first.
It's been 1 week since you looked at me. Cock your head to the side and said I'm angry. 5 days since you laughed at me, saying get back together, come back and see me. Yesterday you'd forgiven me, but it'll still be 2 days till I say I'm sorry.
The Heartburn Hotel. If you suffer persistent heartburn 2 days a week or more, despite diet change and treatment, it may be acid reflux disease. Prescription Prevacid can mean 24-hour relief from acid reflux disease. Prevacid turns off tiny pumps that produce acid. It has a low occurrence of side effects, such as diarrhea, abdominal pain, and nausea. Ask your doctor if Prevacid is right for you.
So leave your heartburn behind!
These two women started scrubbing their bathtubs at the same time. The woman on the right used deeper penetrating scrubbing bubbles. The woman on the left is using Tilex. Be done with scum faster with scrubbing bubbles. They work even harder, so you don't have to.
The long jump. The dash. Life is like a sport, and your feet take the impact hard. But new Stride Guard insoles absorb 50% more heel impact than these Dr. Scholl's. Take more impact in stride. New Stride Guard insoles.
It was my grandson's birthday. He just turned 3. We're going to move him out of his crib and buy him a big boy bed. Hello? I was on chemo then, and I was exhausted.
Grandpa.
I said to the doctor, I need help. I'm on a mission.
If you're a chemotherapy patient and feel tired and weak, you may be anemic. Ask your doctor about Procrit. Procrit is a natural way to regain red blood cells lost during chemotherapy. And more red blood cells can mean more strength.
Oh, this is a great one. This is a good one.
Procrit is proven and safe. In studies, only diarrhea and edema occurred more often with Procrit than placebo. Procrit is for patients with non-myeloid cancers.
How do you like it up here now?
Good.
Call now and learn how Procrit can help you get back the strength you need.
See? What'd I tell you?
Your strength for living.
He takes a lot of energy, but I never get tired of him.
It's been 1 week since you looked at me. Cock your head to the sides and I'm angry. 5 days since you laughed at me, saying, get back together, come back and see me. Yesterday, you'd forgiven me, but it'll still be 2 days till I say I'm sorry.
The overseas news begins tonight in Northern Ireland. Protestant demonstrators there have spent the last 3 days trying to keep Catholic children from going to school. Today, it got completely out of hand. The Northern Ireland minister called it barbaric. ABC's Richard Gisbert reports from Belfast.
When they opened the barricades this morning and let the Catholic families through, there was apprehension, but a feeling that perhaps the worst was over. Then, the explosion. The homemade bomb was thrown from the Protestant side. The Catholics were terrified. None of the children was hurt. 4 of the policemen protecting them were.
The world should see that those people tried to murder babies this morning and mommy's taking their kids to school.
Police arrested 3 men and Protestant leaders came under new pressure to call off the protests.
I'm totally ashamed that anybody would do that when young Catholic girls are coming up here. Totally ashamed.
The girls reached their school safely, but they knew that in a few hours, their parents would ask them to make the same walk home. And when the time came, some were already in tears.
It's not a long walk. It's just a few hundred yards down a road, and it only takes a few minutes. But for these little girls, the walk to and from school these last 3 days has been an absolutely terrifying experience.
They walk over the rocks that have been thrown at them, past cars torched in the fighting, right under the noses of their Protestant neighbors, and under the wing of parents and police. And there is relief when mother and daughter finally make it home. Richard Gisbert, ABC News, Belfast.
Just a couple of other items in the overseas briefing. In the Philippines, thousands of people were evacuated from villages near Mount Pinatubo in the southern part of the country. Authorities are preparing to crack the volcano's crater and drain a lake, which is threatening to flood the area already. In South Africa, 19 people, mostly villagers, were killed in a fire at the country's largest wildlife reserve, Kruger National Park. 3 game wardens were among the dead, and so were some animals. And the Concorde is going to begin commercial flights again next month. Today, aviation authorities gave Air France and British Airways permission to resume flights once some modifications to the plane are completed. When we come back, a couple of minutes with the First Lady.
What the White House owns.
He's at the 10, the 5, fumble!
Get your hands on new Game Day Cheez-It crackers. Football shapes for football fans.
I can eat corn on the cob, and I can eat the apples as long as I've got Super Polygrip on these dentures. I know that it works. I mean, it holds my teeth in place. Using the Super Polygrip, I can continue auctioneering. Bid 35 and now bid 40, now 5, 45 and now bid.
I'm every man.
And every woman who ever suffered from frequent, persistent heartburn.
If you've treated your heartburn and changed your diet, but the pain comes back 2 or more days a week, then you may think you know about acid reflux disease.
But there's something about acid reflux that I didn't know.
Over time, that acid churning up can wear away the lining of your esophagus.
I didn't know.
I didn't know.
I didn't.
Now the makers of Prilosec introduced their new purple pill, Nexium. Just one prescription Nexium a day gives many people complete resolution of heartburn symptoms.
That could mean complete heartburn relief.
And Nexium is also proven to heal erosions in the esophagus caused by acid reflux. Only a doctor can determine if you have this damage. Other serious stomach conditions may still exist. The most common side effects of Nexium and Prilosec are headache, diarrhea, and abdominal pain. So talk to your doctor and call this number for more information and for a free trial certificate for Nexium.
Relieve the heartburn, heal the damage. It's possible with the new purple pill called Nexium.
Want to smooth away your frizz?
Smoother.
Get Pantene Smooth and Sleek Conditioner.
Smoother than smooth. So glad I found you.
Smooth your hair with Pantene Moisturizing Pro V formula.
Smoother than smooth.
In just 10 days, it makes your hair up to 65% smoother and healthier. So healthy, you'll love your hair. Smooth Care Collection from Pantene Pro V.
What if you could return your dog back to a healthy weight? Feed her Iams weight control formula in the blue bag. It allows her to gradually reduce weight by helping turn fat into energy, which could add years of splendid health to her life. Iams, good for today, good for tomorrow, good for life.
Next on K2 News, 2 law enforcement officers are dead, another critically injured. Police say the driver accused of hitting them shouldn't have been behind the wheel. We're learning more about the victims and the families they left behind. Tonight, we'll also hear from the surviving officer's brother. Also, an Oregon congressman rules out running for governor, but is another office in his future? K2 News is next.
Tomorrow, kids, college students, fatal accidents. The government has warned us. Dangerous passenger vans. Is anyone listening? On World News Tonight.
Finally this evening, the First Lady in the first person about her first state dinner. The Bushes are having the Mexican president and his new bride, incidentally, to the White House tonight. They're having bison from Colorado. Now, this is usually a bigger deal in Washington than elsewhere else in the country. But the First Lady hasn't done this at the White House before, and so when she offered a preview, we were there.
It's just like a party at your own house where the last minute you're washing the windows and wiping the fingerprints off the doors and setting the tables, as you can see. I think it's so beautiful. Today we're using the Millennium China, which is the china that was bought during the last administration. We have a really fabulous dinner. We did the tasting for it in July. We had several friends join us for dinner, and everyone tasted something different. And then the president happened to have the bison along with another friend of ours, and they both immediately said, "This is it. You know, you can't even vote on what you're having because this is so great." I'm wearing a really very festive red dress. And just like the tasting for the dinner, I've been working on it a long time. I made it myself. No, it's beautiful red lace with hot pink under it. So I think it'll be really, real pretty. And this is Roland, the pastry chef, who always does the most magnificent desserts. And not only are they beautiful, but they're always really delicious.
The dessert itself is mango and coconut with fresh peaches and raspberry.
That's the president serving. Yes. There will be dancing, and you'll be glad to know that President Bush will actually open the dancing.
Is he excited about that?
We haven't told him yet, but no, I'm only kidding.
Did Mrs. Bush really say just like entertaining at your house? That's our report on World News Tonight. Tomorrow on World News Tonight, we're going to go to Japan. What is it with the Japanese Prime Minister, who's so important to this country as well as his own, and Elvis Presley? Don't forget Nightline this evening. I'm Peter Jennings. Good night.
Beginning tonight, 2020 moves to Wednesdays. For